asking voters, do you want to spend it on the list? If we're going to cross that bridge, if we're going to say, okay, we're going to ask voters to affirm something that's on the list, and it gets voted down, why the library should be held in any different realm than any of the other things on the list, unless we're just discriminating because we're taking libraries out separately. If the library wasn't on the list, I wouldn't have this beef. But it's on the list, and there is a presumption that a library is a public building. So if we're going to vote, if there's a no vote, I don't see why we wouldn't put every other project out. Is there a reason that we wouldn't, that we're only doing it for the library?
Well, maybe I could answer the question in terms of what the explanatory statement would or wouldn't say, is that this is for an advisory opinion. So you guys still retain all your powers to do what you want.
Okay.
So there's kind of the first answer, which is, could you change, course, if they're going to answer specifically as to price, location, and the type of building, and you want to even adhere to their advice, and they say no, does that necessarily stop you from even doing the same project? No, but what it does is, it informs you of what the public wants in terms of this particular project.
And that's a good answer, but that's not the question I'm asking. Is that why are we pulling the library out of the list as being somehow different? That I'm just asking us to be strategic and saying, if this doesn't work, what is our plan? That we're just going to spend the money on the rest of the list without asking voters? Because this is on the list and we're asking voters. And I want to know why this is any different than any of the items on the list.
I understand and appreciate your question. What I guess that's beyond the scope of my explanatory statement, because my explanatory statement will only say, basically, it won't raise taxes, it won't actually be binding, and,
And this is a policy question, Joe.
Yeah, correct.
Is that are we crossing the bridge of saying we're going to refer to voters what we spend our urban renewal funds on? Or are we just somehow treating the library as different than anything else? And I'd kind of like to have that answered up front.
Well, and since it's a policy question, it's, for your own body, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, do you see my point?
Oh, yeah.
That it's on the list, we're pulling one thing out of the list, we're asking voters, or do you want to spend money on this list? And then, if the answer is no, are we going to continue to say, okay, well, let's take this on the list and send it out for referral? Or do you somehow see the library as being different? And if so, why?
I can take a crack at it.
Sure, please.
Clint might have beat me to
Well, I
it.
was just going to say, do you think it'd be valuable to have a little work session amongst the group where we spend some time and help craft some ideas that we present to you on what we all agree upon doing?
That could be extraordinarily beneficial if you guys wanted to do it. I'd be happy to craft something that I think would be objective and encapsulate what you're telling me here, and then when I put that together, say, hey, how about, this day, and try to see if you guys agree with it or not. That would be
Well, again,
helpful.
Clint, that's not the issue.
No.
Why are we picking on the library?
I think that in our discussions prior to coming to this point, when we discussed with the Friends of the Library and everything, that this has become such a divisive issue in the community, and we've heard, myself and others have expressed here, that we've heard a lot of people in the community that stated that they didn't want a library, and we, through the URA, without their permission, without a vote, have decided to push for a library. And some of those on the city council now feel that this is the time and the opportunity to take it before the city and let this be decided by a vote to end the divisiveness and to allow the people to have their say. And if they say they want it, then we've settled that issue. If they say they don't want it, then we've heard the people, and we still have the monies that we can use for anything else within the urban renewal that is going to, again, benefit the whole community. Not just a specific group of people, but it's going to benefit the whole community. And I think that's why we need to refer this to the people and let them have their say in this. If it was just, if there was no outcry or coming across a lot of people that are not in opposition, there's just no pro or con much to it, then I could see going ahead with it.
So a library is different than a bridge.
In this instance, I believe it is,
Okay.
because that's,
Because the library only helps some people and a bridge would help everybody.
well, if only some of the people, if the majority of the people are for it and they want it, then they'll get it.
All right,
If
well, I was
they-
looking for that explanation.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, mine's a little different. For me, it's not a question of what's on the list or not. I don't argue that. It's, the vote is a recognition of ideological differences on the council around the use of, I want to be careful, but in gross terms, TIF versus non-TIF, funds for TIF versus non-TIF generation. And so that's why, to me, we're asking permission. Now, to be consistent, I would support that if we were running the Wayback Machine and back to the new PD,
Oh, it
I would
absolutely
have the
should have
same
gone out.
position, that we would need to ask permission. And because it's not TIF and it's not base infrastructure like a bridge.
I could go back even further and say it shouldn't have been urban renewal at all. Once that failed, they should have retooled and took it out again, but that's just my opinion.
Right.
Probably would have passed it. Question for Joe, if I can.
Yes.
In the, when you have the explanatory statement, there usually is a yes vote does this, a no vote does that.
Yeah.
Can we enumerate some projects that we plan to do if the civic building isn't built with the yes vote? Can we enumerate what those projects with the no vote would be?
Sure.
So then we wouldn't have to
And I
then
wouldn't,
re-refer?
and since it's not necessarily a binding, it's advisory, you could just say something to the effect of, it might, those same funds then could potentially be allocated for other listed projects such as. Does that make sense? And this actually, I could segue right into Councilor Coleman's suggestion, which is, Kim and I were discussing aside here about January 15th being a workshop that we could do.
Okay.
So if you want me to craft something, and then that happens to be my 40th birthday.
And we'll have a bang out work
So,
session.
yeah, there you
for
go.
your
So make it fun.
I'll bake you a cake.
But that'll be a day for that workshop if that's what you guys are so inclined to
I'm
have.
bringing the cake.
I'll bring cake.
You'll be here, I'm going to so celebrate.
Joe, it seems that there's a lot of head nodding that that would be something that
Okay.
we would want to have some dialogue around to help understand it, structure it,
Okay,
make sure
perfect.
that we're,
And then
Well
we
situated.
would bring back the ballot title, the February meeting, and it's, after that, we're going to be under a real
It's going to be tight.
close, tight schedule. So if anything changes.
So we should hammer out everything we can
On
here
the
on the
15th, yeah,
15th.
because once the ballot title is approved by council, the first meeting in February, if it's approved, there's a challenge period, it has to be posted and published in the paper, and I mean, after that, but yeah, because the beginning of March is the deadline.
okay,
Because some
Okay.
people might want to fight the way it's worded.
okay,
Yeah, okay.
all right. Any other comments on this agenda item? No? Okay. City Administrator, Business and Staff Reports.
Actually, I do have a couple, thank you. One of the things we talked about in executive session for URA, Urban Renewal Agency, but have that on December 4th. And I'd like to start that as early as possible. And right now, we're taking 5:45,
I did it for 5:30.
5:30? Okay. So 5:30 to talk about, it'll be about property.
Okay.
So, okay. The other thing is, those of you, I've talked about the Forward Leadership Program several times here. They're starting a new class. The time limit, or the time you have to have your application in, is this week from tomorrow, or a week from Friday, and they're a little short. So if you get an opportunity, and I know it's a bad time of year, obviously, to be going out recruiting people, but some of you probably got the email from Amy
I did.
begging to go out and recruit.
And I actually have to confess, I haven't signed it up yet. My daughter has, so I better.
I've been bad too, so. One other thing I had is leaf pickup. I had a lead workers meeting this morning, and we talked about the leaves, and my plan right now is to get a brochure together and have Carrie go out and leave a brochure with people who are putting leaves in the street. There are lots of opportunities and options for people. One of them is if you have garbage service, which most people probably do in this city, you've got, a yard debris bucket. Now, it may not hold all your leaves, but you may know this, and I'm going to confirm this before I put it on a brochure, but Cahoot used to give out biodegradable bags, big ones, that you put your leaves in, and they would come and pick them up on a periodic basis, probably whenever they picked up. Do you know anything about this?
Did not know
I
that.
don't.
Public Works told me that today, and I said, well, I'm going to need to confirm that before I commit them to picking up leaves. But another thing I'm going to look at is the possibility of allowing people to bring their leaves. We're not going to pick them up, bring them down to Public Works, because we actually have somebody come pick them up in a huge belly dump or whatever type of thing, and they use them for compost. And I forgot the name of the company that picks them up, but they come pick them up, haul them away. So,
Another maybe suggestion along those lines to maybe look at with Cahoots. My mother-in-law lives in Vancouver, and literally in her neighborhood, and they do it throughout Vancouver, they pick 2 weekends during the fall, and they will drop off the large, almost construction bins, and people can, they'll drop them off on a Friday, pick it up on Sunday, and people can come and dump their bagged leaves in there and keep doing that until all, the bins are full, and the city or the waste company there comes periodically and checks them and dumps them if they look like they're full. But maybe that could be something strategically around Canby that, a couple weekends during the fall.
okay, I'll talk to them about that. That's a good idea. That would be better, actually, than asking or allowing them to bring it down to Public Works, because then it's right there. You don't have to find a way to haul them down to Public Works. But it's a big issue of us picking them up. We're spending a lot of diesel running our sweeper back and forth. It's a lot.
Well, and that was our conversation after the last meeting with the citizen that came in and brought up the leaf issue, was that more times than not, our sweepers, because we run 2 of them, have to go back more frequently to Public Works, or we have to bring out the front loader for the dump truck to empty into the bin, which is more labor costs, more fuel costs, et cetera. So,
Yeah.
I mean, his argument is correct in what we should be doing. And, I had, this was a heated conversation topic in my house, because my wife thought she'd be smart and just rake them into the street, and the street sweeper would pick them up.
You're on camera.
I know I'm on camera, so I had to go, I went back out and raked them out of the street, because now between fuel costs, labor costs, the impact on the stormwater system, there's a greater impact. So, don't put your leaves in the street.
There you go.
Is that to your wife or everybody else?
Well, that could be to my wife and the rest of the citizens of Canby. So I think if we look at that, some other options for leaf removal that make it easier to do that.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
Councilor Parker?
Well, Brian, actually, Meg's in good company, because as I've talked with folks, some truly believe that one of the reasons we have a street sweeper is that it's a city leaf pickup program.
That's exactly right. We discussed that in our meeting.
And
That's
that
exactly
there needs to be, and I had a discussion with somebody, and he said, well, isn't that why they come down the street? No malice
Yeah.
at all.
No.
But just strictly thinking that this wasn't a problem. So I think there's a public education component to this that we need to talk about, and we may already have blown our window for this year.
Right.
But next year, we may want to think strategically about that as the leaves begin to turn. So far, we've been lucky this year that we haven't had the zizzagy of a leaf fall with a rainfall that we've had in the past that just clogs everything up. But I think that we have some good-hearted people out there that just don't understand what a street sweeper does and are putting the leaves out there because they think that's what they're supposed to do.
That was part of the discussion today, that's exactly right. So it's a matter of education, like you said. And if that rain comes down, those leaves start weighing 4 times as much, too.
Well, the other, the piece to that too is, it's, a lot of people don't know, and Portland does a lovely leaf ordinance, and they have fee.
Right.
They charge every single house for removal of those leaves. I don't want to go that route. And I think with education and letting our citizens know that we have other alternatives would be probably our best first move.
Anyway, I thought I'd bring that up, let
No,
you know
appreciate
we've been
that.
discussing it, so, thank you.
Any other items?
That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you.
So action review, Kim. Oh, I'm sorry. Next opportunity for citizen input. Sorry, I skipped that last piece. Anyone else would like to come?
Anyone
No?
else that's left?
Thank you, everyone. Now we'll do action review.
You have approved the consent agenda. You've adopted Resolution 1177, amending wording that the annual registration fee will be 4% of gross revenues. You've adopted Resolution 1178. You've adopted ordinances 1387, 1388, 1389, and 1390. You've approved ordinance 1391 to come up for second reading on December 4th. Wording will be changed before it's posted, so the amount of the fee is not contained within the ordinance, but set by resolution. The city administrator will work with Canby Livability Coalition on modifying language and bring back the MOU to the council, and council will have a work session on January 15th, 2014 to discuss ballot title language.
Great. Joe, do we have an exec session this evening? Before I ask for an adjournment, I just want to wish you all here, TV Land, a very happy and blessed Thanksgiving next week. Be safe if you're traveling. It's going to be cold and rainy and icy and snowy in certain areas, so travel safely. Thank you all. Have a great Thanksgiving. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Thank you.
Second?
Moved by Councilor Ryder, seconded by Councilor Hensley to move and enjoy the next couple weeks. All those in favor? Aye. Passes. Thank you. Good night.